Welcome back to this segment of today's Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. You know, we love to have sports-oriented features here on the program, and especially as it applies to business, which is why we have our friend Chris Kidd in. He's a contributor at Price of Business. He can also frequently be found at usdailyreview.com, the national news website, and, of course, at chriskidd, that's KIDD.com. And, Chris, I love the insight and the information you bring. I love the work you do as well. Tell us a little bit about that before you introduce your guest.
Yeah, basically what I do is help people with finances, with, what if they're dealing with personal financial issues as far as getting out of debt and stuff, or learning to manage their money so they can build wealth and understand how to handle their investments and understand what's going with their investment portfolios and stuff. And the whole thing that kind of got me to that is along the lines of what we're talking about today. It's the fact that the biggest issue that comes up in divorces and broken homes is finances. And I figured, well, if I could do something to fix that issue, then we can probably save a lot of families. So my guest today is Keion Carpenter. He's a former NFL star and has the Shutdown Academy, is an amazing organization that he's founded through his foundation, the Carpenter House. And he's just released a new book called Covered, The Fatherless Athlete. So it's an amazing book, too. It's really good. I've been reading it. So good to have you on, Keion.
Glad to be here, man. Thank you all.
Yeah, kind of give us your elevator speech. Tell us your story.
Well, I'll pick up kind of where he left off. Basically, I was raised by a single mom in Baltimore. I was fortunate and blessed enough to get an athletic scholarship to Virginia Tech, and was very blessed to have been able to play 8 years in the NFL. And since I retired in 2006, I just pretty much dedicated my life to giving back and providing families and children different opportunities so they can better themselves and be successful in life, and just have make their pathway to success easy, in my words.
Well, talk a little bit about that. I mean, the book is... I do a lot of reading, and it is one of the best books that I've read in a really long time. I'm really enjoying it, and I appreciate the note and everything that you wrote in there for me. But this thing is, it's kind of used my heart as a punching bag. It's talk a little bit kind of about your story growing up, as you were a kid, and then some of the things that you went through and things that you saw, and some of the mentors that helped you steer clear of some things, even Slim, maybe.
Growing up, man, without that father figure, my mom, she did everything she possibly could to take care of me, but it was just a void that she just couldn't fill. And she had no idea, because I hid that from her for so long, because I didn't want to disappoint her. I didn't want her to think that she wasn't enough or she wasn't doing enough, when actuality she was. But a woman cannot fill a father's role or in a father's void in a child's heart. And that was something that I touched on in the book. And then I was always drawn to some of my coaches who I referenced. My very first coach was Marvin Brown. Then John Hansborough, and Coach Green, and Coach Scriven was my high school coach. I remember those guys because those were some of my father figures growing up, and instilling in me the disciplines and the things that were more important in life than just sports. But I couldn't go home with them, and they weren't coming to my house. And when the seasons always ended, it was always a disconnect. So I think. A lot of issues that are plaguing a lot of the communities that I serve, a lot of it starts at home. Being that the two parents are not involved in the situation, I think that affects a lot of these kids and their growth, and the decisions that they choose to make or not make in this journey called life.
Yeah. By the way, what's the best website for us to get more information to the audience?
You can go to www.carpenter-house.org.
Very good. Go ahead there, Chris.
Well, Keion, I know a lot of the star athletes coming up get treated kind of like royalty, like they're becoming prima donnas and stuff. A lot of times they get this attitude that, the rules don't apply, they can walk on water and they can do whatever they want. And I imagine a lot of that comes from a situation like you're talking about, growing up without a dad and whatnot. And, what is some things that some parents can do to kind of help prevent that? And where does some of that stuff come from?
Well, first of all, they got to understand that we as children, just because we're gifted athletically, we still struggle with just regular daily life issues. And if those issues are overlooked just because I'm a star athlete, or they're pushed to the side because I'm a star athlete at a certain point in our life, it is going to catch up with us. And I just would encourage the parents, talk to your child. Don't be your child's fan, but be his parent and understand that he or she will have a lot of fans out here that will praise him when he's doing, great in sports or whatever have you. But be his friend. You have no idea with what a child is actually struggling with unless you kind of ask those questions that that may kind of take the conversations there. So don't be afraid to have those tough conversations. I know my mother, if she could do it over, because I hid behind my smile so much, because I hid behind the sport so much, if she could do it over, I'm sure she would wanted to have asked me some questions of some things that I may have been struggling with. But just ask, and don't just rely on being a fan of your child in sports and just only praising him when he's doing well athletically, and just forget about just the regular daily life that a child normally has to deal with.
Let me ask you, how do you practically help men bring a better game of fatherhood, if you will, to the picture? What are some of the things that you're involved in?
Well, basically, we just encourage fathers just to show up and be consistent. It's not, no one knows how to be a perfect father. I know I'm not. But the one thing my kids understand is that I'm there and that I love them unconditionally, and I'm going to always be there to support them no matter what, regardless of what I may be dealing with personally, professionally, whatever, in my workforce or whatever is going on in my outside of my life. My kids and our children should come first. So, we try to do a lot of events where we're getting, dads involved. I was involved with a daddy-daughter event last week, and it was just so encouraging to see so many dads, pretty much, bring their daughters to this event and just be involved. And even if it was just for that day, I know it meant a lot to those daughters. And we just try to encourage from every aspect to, get in your child's life. It's never too late. If you haven't been in, and there's still a chance, put your pride to the side, because that child is still waiting on you, whether he's 5 years old or whether he's 37 years old.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go ahead and take a break. Can we hold you through the break and visit with you in the next segment?
Absolutely.
Well, we're looking forward to it. And again, Keion Carpenter, he's here with Chris Kidd. Great segment. By the way, this interview and so much more can be found at the national news website, usdailyreview.com. And we're delighted to have this great conversation right here on The Price of Business.